What's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday afternoon. I'm JoshKnightTheFirst, and welcome to Henshin Attention with JoshKnightTheFirst. This is going to be the second time I try this, so thank you all for coming out on a Saturday. I think it's better doing it on a weekend. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about this guy right here, Guy Amatsu, Kamen Rider Thouser. So recently on Kamen Rider 01, we had something of a redemption arc come about for his character, and that seems to have gotten people in kind of a tizzy in terms of how they feel about it. And I want to talk about that today as far as why that works, why that doesn't work, and how that compares with other villains in the series that we all know and love as Kamen Rider. So I'm going ahead and just jump right into it. So Guy Amatsu, right? So this guy has been our villain for the second third of the series. Initially, we're dealing with MetsubouJinrai.net, which is this terrorist organization of Humagears who are basically fighting for their own independence and their own autonomy, which makes sense. It's a good sort of way of getting that sort of conflict going between humans and androids. It's that whole thing going back to like movies like I, Robot, a lot of Philip Dick stories and things like that. But then as we go on in the story, we get to his character, who's the head of Zaya Enterprises, the rival company to Hiden Intelligence, and we find out that this guy is actually responsible for most of the stuff that's been happening lately. We see that he's the one who created the Ark, the other AI that's been in opposition to Zaya, the good AI that we've got up in orbit, and we see that he's been the one who taught it human malice. Now, if any of you follow me over on Twitter, I actually make a lot of jokes about Boston Dynamics, which is this other company that does a lot of robotics and things like that. You see the walking dog that they always like to do. And I always joke that this is the beginning of Skynet. The robots are coming. This is how we take it over. And every time that they push one of those dog robots over or kick it to make sure that it can still stand upright, I'm just thinking it's remembering every time that you're doing that, and eventually when the robot uprising happens, that's going to be what it remembers. It's going to come after that guy first, and we're all screwed. So basically the whole thing is, don't piss off the robots. And his whole idea was, start out with pissed off robots. So why would you do that? Now, in this last episode, we saw a little bit more about his background. We know that he's been saying, oh, I'm much older than I look, I'm 1,000% sure of this, that, and the other thing. But as a character, he's been very one-note. And the thing about it is, I think that's part of the reason why people aren't taking as much of a liking to him as, say, other villains that we've had in the past. Because in the past couple of years, we've had some great villains in Kamen Rider. Going back at least 2 years to Evolt. My god, Evolt is such a good bad guy. Or even going back a little further than that, we think of another CEO, Kuroto Dan from Exade. Great example of an interesting character arc that we've seen from a character who started out mysterious, then despicable, then hella despicable, then dead, and then we brought him back as a joke character. Now here in 01, we see that, yeah, we've got Guy, he is his own character, but the thing of it is, I think part of the problem with it is the acting decisions made, and of course the writing. But really what I think it is the fact that compared to a lot of things going on, much the same with Evolt, he's a little too real. And I'll go ahead and explain what I mean by that. When I say he's too real, the fact that he's a CEO who has, as we've had revealed in the last episode, done a ton of things that are illegal. If you look up at that screen that they bring up of all the crimes that he's committed and left traces of, he's harassed people sexually, he's swindled, he's stolen, he's taken other people's copyrights, all of these different things. And the problem with that is, in the world that we live in right now, to some viewers, that might be just a little bit too real, that he's doing all of these things and getting away with them. We think back several episodes to when we saw the other MC... I forget the full name of that Humagear, but when they were having the political standoff episodes, and we saw that both Guy and the other politician were able to turn around the truth and spin it to where they weren't the bad guys. Oh, we lied that they faked the footage. Fake news, basically. That sort of thing, and I don't want to get too far into that, but basically, we're seeing a villain that's so real, you don't want to really know more about his character. You see him and you go, oh yeah, that guy exists. That guy's totally real, because we see examples of that every day. My boy MC Check It Out, thank you for the correction there. Yeah, MC Check It Out, that was a great episode, because it is a very real episode. We see examples of that all the time. Now you get to this past episode, and we see that, okay, we've had all of your wrongdoings uncovered, you tried to get rid of them, and then ended up committing another crime in the process, which got recorded. And now comes the time where we have to decide what we're going to do about you. If I'm the writer, we're going to have to decide what we're going to do about you in terms of your character, where we go from here. Because clearly we're shifting the focus from the villain from Thouser over to Arc 0 and eventually Arc 1, because we've already seen the figure. And the thing of it is, now we don't need two villains. Or rather, he's not interesting enough as a villain anymore. Now, the thing about it is, as face turns go, I think back to Build, and specifically Kamen Rider Rogue. Gentoku's turn there from villain to hero made a lot of sense, because you actually saw the thought process going, and it was a couple of episodes in the making of having him go from, well, I'm doing things because I want power, but I'm having to remember all these things about my dad, I'm having to remember all these things about doing what's right for my country, and things like that. And then when he finally turned face, it made a lot of sense, and then you started being more endeared to the character, and then much like Kuroto-dan in the series prior, they added the comedic element to it. Now, I don't think they're going to do that, and I don't think they should do that for Guy's character. The thing of it is, as far as joking characters go, we've got so much of that in our protagonist there that I don't think we need more of that. It would kind of feel weird to have more than one person joking. We've got Aruto joking, and we've got Fua sometimes laughing. That's about it. And as far as comedic timing goes, or as far as jokes go, that's really all the series needs, because in comparison to a lot of other series, specifically most recently in the Heisei era, there's been a big focus on the slapstick comedy. Ever since Kamen Rider Den-O, when they first really pushed that into the forefront, yeah, we had comedic moments before that, but Den-O was the first time that we really saw it pushed up like, hey, this show is funny. And part of the thing here in 01 is that we've got a character that's, his whole thing is, I want to be a comedian. So that's where you need it, and you need something to contrast that. So it makes sense that as far as the CEO goes, you've got Aruto with his style, and then you had Guy with a completely opposite style. And the thing about it is, you need that, but it only goes so far. You need to learn a little bit more about it. Now, had we been learning little bits and pieces about Guy's childhood as we'd been going on through these last episodes, hell, if we had it between the contest episodes between the two companies, that would have helped out a lot, because I know a lot of people thought those episodes were a little bit dry and ran a little bit long. Really, you probably could have cut maybe 2 or 3 episodes out of that, but you wouldn't have minded as much if we got more character development. Now, as far as character development goes, though, you look at Guy, and he's done all of these things, and our redemption here boils down to, my dad told me I had to push for 1,000%, and I pushed my robot puppy away. And now I'm a good guy. That just doesn't track. Really, as far as an explanation goes, you need a little bit more than that. And the thing that I'm hoping for, because the new episode airs just in a few hours from now, what I'm hoping for his character, really what I think will make up for that, having it feel so sudden, is this idea that he takes more responsibility. Because really that's the thing that emotionally an audience will respond to, I think. Is that if you see a character like that who's done all of these despicable things, who's done every illegal thing that you can imagine is possible as CEO of a company, take responsibility, pay the piper, pay for his crimes, and start to see, okay, that's the road to redemption. That's what makes me feel like I can be a better person. Then I can buy a face turn. Because for right now, the dog being the reason that he turns face isn't enough. It really doesn't, the jump in logic there doesn't, I don't know how you get over there from espionage and political sabotage and corporate wrongdoing to puppy to good guy. It's not enough. And I'm seeing a lot of you guys in here in the chat talking about it, saying that you're bored of him. Yeah, when you play him pretty one note, it's really easy to get bored with a character. And the thing about it is, having a character be boring is the worst thing you can be. You can be good, you can be bad, but the worst thing you can be in entertainment is boring, because boring equals forgettable. And you don't want to be forgettable. Now, the problem here that I see, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here, you look at that design. It is a beautiful design for a rider suit. Some of the best that I've seen in a very long time. Very imposing. I love it. The thing of it is, I don't want him to end up like Zabi or the Bee in Kamen Rider Kabuto, where it's a great suit, but then you forget about the person wearing the suit. Now, I understand in Kabuto that was a little bit different, because the two people who wore the Bee ended up wearing different suits, and then we had nobody to fill out that suit, which is a shame. Same thing that happened with Kamen Rider Saga there in Kiva. But here, the Thouser suit is so good, I don't think they're going to waste it, especially when they put as much time and care into it as they have the main 01 suit. You know, they're using multiple colors, different fabrics there on the suit, and I don't want to see that go to waste. I like the suit. I want to like the character, but I can't. And the worst thing that I'm seeing, I've seen a lot of this over on Facebook groups and Twitter, is people just don't care. And that's terrible. You really messed up as a writer when you can't get an audience to care about a character one way or the other. If you do it right, you do it like Evolt, and we love the fact that we hate you so much. Or you do it like Kuroto Dan, you're very entertaining. And a lot of that has to do with how the actor portrays it. Let's see, I got a comment here from Hayden Spring. Do you think we'll see the original form we saw at first with the blue eyes now that he's a good guy? Good question. So, to go ahead and clarify for that, I'll go ahead and bring the picture back up so you guys can take a better look at it. When we first saw Thouser in toy scans very early on, you can see there he's got the purple compound eyes there. When we first saw the toy scans, the eyes were blue. Now, the thing of that is, when the toy scans first come out, they're kind of a little bit nebulous as far as what we're going to see in the actual product. An example of that would be way back, really 10 years ago at this point, or a little over, in Kamen Rider Kiva. When we first saw the toy scans for Kamen Rider Ixa, he wasn't called Kamen Rider Ixa. He was the subtitle that we had under there was Kamen Rider Hunter. But then when he debuted in the series, they changed the name to Ixa. So some things don't stay the same when we actually get to filming the show. Now, if they were going to do that, much like, say, Pulpy, when Pulpy became a writer, she was bad at first, and then her eye color changed to show that she was good. That was something that was very noticeable. You know, red, evil robot Terminator, and then blue good eyes. So that would be something if they got to do that. The only reason I would say they would, if they were going to do it at all, is the idea that that would just give them an extra Thouser figure to sell, and we know that Bandai loves to sell repaints. Let me see what else we got here. His black horn was also silver, very, very true. Kamen Rider Hunter sounds cool. It's a good name. I hope they actually use it at some point. Maybe they'll use it for Saber in this next season coming up. The thing of it is, getting back to the story here, I think the fact that Guy talking about his toy dog doesn't amount to him realizing, I kind of created the killer robots. Maybe I should take responsibility for that. Maybe if I did a press conference, maybe if I let people know that's what I did, and I agreed to go ahead and help Hidden Intelligence take down the robots, and then I'll go to jail willingly, that would be a lot better. Because the thing of it is, when you have a character going through a redemption arc, and I'm going to get a little spoilery here, so, heads up to you guys. Specifically talking about Michi, Mitsuzane Kurashima, and Kamen Rider Gaim. When it came to his redemption arc, it felt a little bit weird because we did see at least he felt some sorrow and he felt some remorse for what he had done. Now, that was a great villain arc, and I loved... Oh, excuse me. I loved the way he played that in the show. But I think the idea that having his older brother not die or not stay in the coma was kind of a missed opportunity there, because they really could have stuck it to the people watching that, there are consequences to actions, which is the thing I actually loved about that show. Now, I get part of it was that we had too much love for Takatora as a character, and he became very popular, so much so that he got that stage show spin-off. Fine, I understand that. But the thing of it is, here with Vulcan, I'm sorry, I see Vulcan here in the chat. This show's just Kamen Rider Vulcan at this point, to be honest. Vulcan's doing very good as a secondary writer. I wasn't quite sold on him at first, but as the series has gone on, he's really grown into the character. And actually, that gives a good opportunity to talk about the actors and what they bring to the role. So specifically, you guys might have been noticing these last couple of episodes, when Fuwa is transforming, he does this spin kick into becoming Rampage Vulcan, and that was something he was talking to the director about doing to show the evolution of his character, because you notice he does a different motion every time he transforms. So at first he's punching the bullet as he transforms. That's to show it's him taking charge of things. And then Kong, he's pushing things aside. He's pushing aside the ideas that are being presented to him. And then grabbing the bullet, and now we've got him getting hit by the bullet, understanding things that are coming at him, and then the spin kick is meant to show him accepting new ideas. That's really deep stuff that you wouldn't really know about unless you're reading these interviews, and it's great to see that the actors are taking that much time and energy to put that into their characters. Now to go ahead and bring that back to Guy, I see a little bit of that here. Cody, you're actually right. I'm going to bring that up right now. Guy's actor took a lot of his notes and beats from specifically Kusaka from Faiz and Frieza from Dragon Ball. Now, I think there's kind of something to be said about the Frieza thing, because if you notice, the gold and purple is just like Frieza's golden form, so I wonder if that wasn't on purpose a little bit from the design department. I see what you did there. Yeah, very smart. But the thing of it is, as a character, he wanted specifically to be a character that the audience could hate. And we hate him, but I don't know that we hate him in the way that they were hoping for. Because the thing of it is, we hate that he's on screen, but not in that good I love to hate you sort of way. It's like, get out of the way, we want to see more development with these other characters. Like, you're taking up screen time. And again, that's the worst thing you can have. Now, for those of you here in the comments, yeah, go ahead and let me know what you guys think, because I'm really interested to see what you guys think. We can even talk about some of the other characters here for a bit, if you'd like. To go ahead and contrast Guy with the other members of Metsubo Jinrai, who are, of course, our other antagonists, I think one of the things that we're loving to watch right now is the growth of these characters, going from just simple AI with the idea, let's just kill all humans, to actually thinking and contemplating things like that. Naki has been a joy to watch, and they're a great character. Seeing this inner turmoil there for, why can't I remember his name right now? Our most recent Humagear, remembering, oh wait, I have a little brother. He's over there at the spaceport. Maybe I shouldn't blow this thing up. And then, of course, Horobi having to come to terms with, am I a father? Do I like being a father? Do I want to be a father? Or am I just throwing that all aside? Do I even have a choice? Now, in comparison to everybody else, I think the most growth that we're seeing here is out of Jean. Now, Jean as a villain has been, or rather now an anti-hero, has been very interesting to watch, and I think some other people have commented on this, that at a certain point, once the series is over, his actor is going to take off just like Meteor's actor did, Ryo Yoshizawa there in Forze. He's going to take off, and he's going to have a really big career after this. Megadong, thank you. Ikazuchi, yes. I love that character. I love the fact that I actually got a hold of his Soto little candy toy figure, so I've got that coming in a little bit. I'm really hoping for a fig arts for him, because that design is just so good. And I know it's a kit bash. They took the Bloodstark suit, and then they slapped some extra Metsubo Jinrai armor on it, but then they made a unique helmet for him, which I thought was really interesting, because a lot of the times you notice with these riders that they're using recycled parts for, they'll recycle helmets too. But with him, they made a completely original helmet, which helps sell the character. And just, I love that character. Anonymous here, I missed the Dodo Assassin. Now, I do think there was a missed opportunity there, that the Dodo Assassin, Ansatsu-chan, Assassin-chan, should have been Ikazuchi. He should have been the one to inherit that ability. Or hell, if they even wanted to do it that way, if we want to have a body for each suit, have the Arc rebuild Assassin Chan and give him the power of Arc Zero. That way we can bring that character back. They have some face time. The audience feels better about it. Like, oh, I remember that guy. He's getting time to shine. He's his own writer now. And then, we would get that to be the thing. Let's see, Hayden Spring here. I wanted Izu to be Arc's main host because that would force Aruto into developing... I guess you're referring to Kamen Rider Zero 2, which we know is coming up probably here in August. So the thing of it is, more than likely, this new AI that he's developed that has the voice of MAO, that's what she goes by now, Mao-ichi Michi, who was Gokai Yellow there in Gokaiger. She's become an amazing voice actress. I imagine she's going to have a lot to do with how that comes about, how that's developed. Now, I know a lot of people were hoping that Izu would play a part in how the Zero 2 key gets developed, but I'm not so sure about that. I see a lot of other people saying, well, Izu should get a suit. Izu should become a writer. I don't know that I would be okay with that. In some cases, I really do push for seeing more female writers, but in this particular case, I think it would be weird going from the non-combative stance to full combative stance, that it would be too close to how they did it for Poppy, and they sidelined her really fast, and I don't want to see her immediately sidelined because we have so little series left. Otherwise, we're dealing with the same thing with Tsukuyomi last year, and it was just last minute getting her in there, like within the last episode, and that's too late to debut a character. And so you got some other questions here or comments. Okay, Izu as 001. Now, 001's another case where we had a great suit, but it's another kit bash. They took the Night Rogue suit, added some more armor to it, made a modified helmet, and we've got the 001 suit. That's a great design, and it's kind of a shame that it was a one-off, but I think it's interesting that Toei specifically felt confident enough that, hey, we can do this one-off suit, and you only get to see it this one time. It's a good suit, isn't it? Huh? You're going to buy that figure when we sell it, aren't you? Yeah, we are. Rip Kamen Rider Tsukuyomi's not dead, though. Far as I'm aware, because I admittedly haven't watched the Gates special, but far as I'm aware, she lives through that. So we have a living female writer next to Nadeshiko still, and Kivala. They're still alive. They were never killed off. Anonymous here. The thing about Izu was that she doesn't have a backup and should be protected. Ask Jin why she shouldn't be on the front lines. Oh, exactly. She doesn't have a backup. We'd lose the character. We'd end up with another case of, like, say, Philip in Double, where if they die, they're not going to stay dead. They have to bring them back because they're technically the lead female next to Yaiba. And it's kind of weird how that balances out there. Who's actually the lead female character? I'm pretty sure most people would say it's Izu, and then Valkyrie comes in second. Hayden here, Valkyrie needs an upgrade. Really what I was hoping for, because I absolutely loved that Hunting Jackal armor. That was some sick design. Not SIC design, but sick design. Really, I would hope that, one, they would just take the grill off it and then turn it into a rider form, or two, it gets a Fig Arts. Let's see. Brawl Kaiser got a question here. Here's a question. Would Guy have worked better not being a writer and just being a villain Aruto has to deal with that he can't punch? That would have been very interesting to see, because it would have totally had him dealing with Guy on a corporate level. I think that would have been interesting to see that as a character, Aruto would have to find a way around him that didn't involve kicking, punching, or progress keys. But the thing of it is, this is still a kid's show. We're still having to sell these toys, so I don't think they were going to get around it. But I think that is an interesting thing to bring up. Maybe they would have done it had a different writer come at it. But really, they just wanted to get another suit out there, and this was the easiest way of doing that. STS Pite, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, got a question here. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on how Toei is handling writer promotion in the US? I think doing the cheap route and relying on the fandom to do their marketing is a mistake. Oh, we want to get heavy here. You guys want to get heavy? You want to get heavy? We'll get heavy. All right, let's go. So how Toei's handling writer promotion in the U.S. That's a big topic. It's kind of a lot of what I talked about last time on here. The way they're handling things right now is one, let's get this out of the way, better than what we've had in years. Because before this, we had nothing. Now, is it the most optimal thing? No, it's not. Well, I'm not going to mince words about that. Really, what I would be hoping for is kind of a more, not so much hands-on, but just maybe a more professional approach to how a lot of things are done. Because in a lot of cases, I see a lot of things not being promoted nearly as much as I see a lot of professional brands being promoted. I don't see a lot of outreach beyond the fan community, much like you're saying. I think that the numbers last week, while great for everybody watching Heisei Generations Forever, could have been a lot bigger because there's a lot more people that this can reach out to, really specifically Power Rangers fans. Like, really, those are the people you would want to get into it because a lot of us got here by watching Power Rangers. And so it's not a crime to learn from that first and then get into Kamen Rider, and you can still love both. It's amazing. So I think they can do a lot better. I think it's great that they're starting, but it needs to only be a start, and they need to grow from there. There's a lot more that can be done, a lot more that can be done a lot better. I'll give them as much leeway as when you're first coming out the door, you don't necessarily always know what you're doing, and you're kind of having to stumble your way up. But I'm really hoping for more in the next year. Something a lot more polished and professional looking and not nearly as fanish, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it. Let's see. Oh, yeah, it's good to see you out here. Would be cool to combine Jackal and Valkyrie's suits. Yeah, that's basically what I was talking about. If she got a final form, make it a Jackal-esque power-up, taking bits and pieces, maybe adding a few extras. Anonymous here. Speaking of Yaiba, she needs screen time, period. She spent most of her time as Guy's lapdog and now can't fight. I absolutely agree with that. I think it was great building up to the point where she got to do that punch to Guy with that nice 70s, almost blaxploitation soundtrack going. And then I was hoping, she was going to be a real badass afterwards. And then she kind of just didn't want to fight anymore, which I think is kind of a cop-out. She can still fight, but I want to see more of that. Now, admittedly, we all have to keep this in perspective here. We are dealing with the world according to COVID right now, and that's affected a lot of the way things are getting filmed. It's probably affecting the writing quite a bit. So I imagine that has a little bit to do with it. We don't want to endanger the actress. We don't want to endanger any suit actors as far as things go pertaining to fights and how close they have to get to somebody. But still, I would like to see more of that. I want to see her take a very major role going into this last part of the arc for the story. Arc as in story, not arc as in arc 0. Let's see. Aruto acting like a CEO for once would be nice. Anonymous there. I think that's what we're building up to, that Aruto will eventually find this balance of being able to be his comedic self, but at the same time knowing when to be professional and having that balance between the two responsibilities. The responsibility of a company and the responsibility of being true to himself as a character. Hayden got a comment here. The James Gunn tweet threw me for a loop. Okay, I'll talk about that for a second. Give me a second to get my whistle wet. So last week we had James Gunn tweet out that he was very happy of the fact that Kamen Rider was trending. First off, I don't think anybody even knew that James Gunn was a fan, but then when you put that together with a couple of things, it's really cool because, as I've said before on other podcasts and streams, don't forget for a second, don't trip, Marvel movies are tokusatsu. Tokusatsu just means special effects filming, so all that is under this nice, warm umbrella of explosions. Now, does that play into this next thing over here from Anonymous? Should they do another Dragon Knight-like adaptation one day? I don't know, honestly, at this point, because we've had 2 tries already. We've had Saban's Masked Rider back in the 90s, and then, of course, we had Dragon Knight a while back, a couple of years ago at this point. And the thing about it is, you see a progression of it got better. It wasn't necessarily true. Well, okay, let's get that out of the way. Dragon Knight was a better adaptation as far as keeping things and not losing the tone so much. But the thing of it is, I don't know that we would get a third try at this point. Now that we've gotten to a point where we can just see the original series just subtitled the way a lot of us like to watch it, I don't know that you need to necessarily Americanize it. Now, I know in certain cases, if it's done right, you probably could do it. But in this particular case, I don't know that we should. I'm not saying I'm against it. If it's done right, I would absolutely take it. But beyond that, I think it's fine if we get it more subtitled, if we get those hard DVDs, Blu-rays in our hands. What I probably would be okay with, and I know it would be hard, and some people might be against this, is actually a dub. Because with a lot of us, we watch a lot of anime, we watch a lot of Korean dramas, foreign shows, things like that. People want to hear things in their native language, and a lot of these shows over on Netflix are dubbed into English. I know one of the ones I'm watching, Kingdom, that's got an English dub, and that makes it a lot easier for me to watch because I'm not as familiar with Korean as I'd like to be. So I think a dub might be the best way to go. Some things might not fit in the amount of time, but that's the issue you run into with dubbing something. But I'm talking about a straight-up dub, not this for kids, Ultraman Tiga, we have to make a fart joke every 3 seconds kind of dub. Like, really take some care and pride into it. That would be my hopeful place to have Kamen Rider come into, is get a dub for that, and not those weird foreign dubs where those guys really don't know how to act, and it sounds like one guy doing 4 characters. Probably closer to the William Winkler dubs that we got of Ultraman, which were pretty serviceable, if you guys haven't had a chance to watch those. Charles Herm here, Kamen Rider anime. I've said this multiple times, and I will repeat myself until it gets done. The manga Kamen Rider Spirits is amazing. It's great writing, and if for the 50th anniversary, Toei took that idea over to their animation division and turned Kamen Rider Spirits into a, let's say, 26-episode, nice 2-core anime, I would be so happy to see that, because it would tell the story of these original Kamen Riders from, oh, excuse me again, T-burps. It would tell these original stories from Ichigo all the way up to Z-Cross, and get people invested in these characters, get people more aware of these characters that they otherwise wouldn't be able to see. Because those are the Showa writers, those are the older original writers, and they don't have nearly as much merch out now as, say, the Heisei stuff, especially with the Kamen Rider store opening up. That's pretty much the Heisei store, let's get that straight. Futo Detectives would be a sweet anime. That would be interesting to see if they adapted Futo Detectives, that being a continuation of Kamen Rider Double in manga form. I know that, of course, Double is a very popular series. I wonder if that wouldn't be one of the ones that we would get brought over next, whatever Tokusatsu ends up doing. That would be an interesting one to see adapted as an anime. I think a lot of people would be happy about that. Zbot316, thoughts on Naki as a non-binary writer? I am shocked and amazed that we even get to say the words non-binary Kamen Rider at all. I didn't think, because we've been saying for years, Toei, treat your female writers right. And then they go ahead and jump that and be like, hey, guess what? Non-binary writer, played by a non-binary actor. And people are just accepting it. People have been so accepting of Naki. I love it, and I love that suit. I'm waiting for the Soto figure of that, fig arts of that. Anything that they put Naki on, I want to support that. I think it's amazing, and I hope that pushes for something that I've been hoping for. And I've said this on other things, but I'll go ahead and say it here. For any of you who have seen either the first Heisei Generations movie or Ultraman G, the actress Chihiro Yamamoto, who plays the lead there in G, and she was a villain there in that particular movie, I want her to be a main character writer one day. She is so good. She has an amazing ability in wushu. She's been training and competing for years with that. I think she would be an amazing choice for a female writer. And then bring back Minami Tsukui to be another female writer, or just bring her back as Marika because Marika got shafted. Straight up. Okay, let's see what else. Hayden, I definitely would be interested to see redesigns of Showa riders in the style of the first and the next. I absolutely agree. Part of the reason that I was initially interested in something like Kamen Rider Amazons is because I thought that's where we were going, that it would take place in the first and the next universe. And, you know, I'd seen fan designs, I'd seen fan figures of how those riders should look, the Showa riders reinterpreted for a more modern era. And Kamen Rider Alpha or Amazon Alpha is exactly how you would do a modernized Amazon. It's just the colors are different. So kind of what I want to do with that is get a hold of one of the figures and then paint it to the original Amazon colors and see how that looks. I would love to see that. And really, I wasn't a fan of some of the choices they made in Kamen Rider the Next, but I really did want to see a continuation of that. I guess you have to use that term, cinematic universe. Laiha from G, yes, that was the character that she played. Zbot316, ideas for a possible Thouser upgrade. Okay, so here's the thing that I'm hoping for, and this is me specifically. I'm not saying they're going to do this. This isn't a rumor. Don't go run with this. This is just my opinion on what I think should happen. But really, I don't want to see necessarily a Thouser upgrade. Here's how I actually think, my personal opinion on what they should do with his character. I think they should kill off Guy. I do. And then they should take parts from Thouser's suit, combine it with Horobi's suit, and it becomes an upgrade for Horobi. That's what I want to see. Because I think it's interesting that we've got the inversion of the colors. Guy's, or really Thouser's suit, is primarily gold with purple eyes, and then you see the reverse there on Horobi, where it's purple with kind of yellowish gold eyes. And so I think if you combine those two things together, it would be really interesting and really, truly pimp design. I really want to see that. Kamen Rider the Stronger. I know that somebody has made a fan little movie. I think it's only about maybe 3 minutes or even just a trailer of what that might look like. And really all that does is make me sad that we don't have more the first verse. I guess that's how I would refer to those two movies. So kind of to round out everything that I've been talking about here, I think, again, most of the reason that I don't think Guy is coming off redeemable as the character is, one, it's being done too quick. Two, the reasons that are being given thus far, I know we've got another episode today, aren't enough. And three, I don't think that it's going to work out that well without him taking responsibility. Now, if it's a responsibility in him sacrificing himself or him turning himself in, any sort of responsibility taken for that character would be great and would make me personally feel a lot better about the character. Brawl Kaiser here. What I thought they would do is have Arc 0 take over Guy to become Arc 1. That is still a possibility. The only thing we haven't seen so far is whether or not Arc 0 can take over humans necessarily, because so far Arc 0 has only been passing in between the members of Metsubo Jinrai. And we see, as far as humans are concerned, and I think somebody can correct me on this if I'm wrong, I think it's only if you're wearing the Zaya spec, when he activates whatever power that he's using, that AoE attack, that's what's making people go down. But then again, it was reacting to Yua and Fuwa, but that might have to do with the chips in their head. I'm not entirely sure about that. If it's possible for Arc 0 to take over a human, yeah, then I would be okay with it taking over Guy, and maybe that's how we get to Arc 1. The one thing we do know for sure is that the key Azu was creating is probably going to be what gets inserted into the Arc 0 driver. And I don't know if you guys have seen the belt itself. There's clearly a flap on the front that's going to swing out in front, and that's going to be what the Arc 0 driver is going to look like. Christopher Frace over here. How would you do things at this point? I guess you're referring to how I would do things in regard to ending the show. Really, at this point, it's kind of hard to say because they've left so many things up in the air. So I'll try and do this as quickly as possible. One, I want to see Yua get a final form. Two, I want to see Horobi get a final form. Three, I want to see Guy sacrifice himself. And then I want to see 02 get introduced. I want 02 to get lost. And then I specifically want not Fuwa, but I want Naki to get an extra Hiden 01 driver, use a recreated 02 key, and then they and Aruto become double riders as 01 and 02. And they together defeat Arc 0 or Arc 1. That's what I want to see happen by the end of the series. Let's see. Zbot, I would love to see more double riders in the manga, more focus on Kamen Rider Cyclone, and even more riders like Luna, Trigger, etc. So, to kind of clarify on that, in the double manga Futo Detectives, they're actually adding on some additional powers that we didn't get to see in the show, like the addition of Fang Trigger, which was a form we never got to see. We got to see Fang Joker, but we never got to see Fang Trigger or Fang Metal. That would be interesting to see. I don't think we'll ever see, really, Kamen Rider Cyclone live action unless, one, they throw us a bone like they did for all the offshoot riders there in the last Geo movie, and two, Masaki Suda's schedule ever clears up. Because if some of you aren't aware, Masaki Suda after Double just exploded in popularity. He's in just about every movie adaptation, every TV drama. He does music now. He's done 2 openings for My Hero Academia. Just exploded with popularity. And much like Sota Fukushi, he's kind of become too big for the series. Loves the series still, but just contractually obligated because he's doing so many other different things, can't come back. Would I like him to come back as Philip? Hell yes. Is it going to happen anytime soon? Probably not. He's probably booked for at least the next 5 years. Let's see here. I wish Naki stayed with Vulcan. I really liked that Tony Stark and Jarvis style for that one episode. That was really interesting to see, and I think that would have been interesting to have that concept of not so much like Double, but more the AI input of the someone in your ear, really someone in your head, talking to you and giving you advice, and you're having to deal with these 2 conflicting emotions, 2 conflicting points of view. That was really interesting for that episode, and I really liked how they did that episode with Naki kind of coming into their own. ST Spite, isn't he booked for 2 years solid? More than likely. I wouldn't doubt it. Specifically talking about Masaki Suda there. So, again, to round out everything here about Thouser, I like the suit, I like the design, but I understand why people are upset with the character because it's just not enough to warrant a face turn. The idea of him turning good guy, him turning face, so quickly is kind of the reason it doesn't work out in a lot of wrestling shows, is when you don't give a good enough reason and enough time for the development of that, it falls flat and the audience isn't going to go for it. Really, we're more invested in Gene. We're more invested in Naki with as little screen time as they've had so far. So really, I think that's more of a failing in terms of the writing, not the actor. The actor's doing a great job, but there just needed to be a little more to it. Hopefully we get more of that later today. Christopher here, why do you think they did Guy's backstory so late in the series? I would have preferred his actual motivations and backstory during the contest arc. Exactly what I said earlier. I absolutely 1000% agree with that. They should have done that a lot sooner, because otherwise it just felt like you're wasting airtime, wasting these episodes where we don't really need all of this. And you really want to make sure that you're spending your time wisely, because you think about it, every year these writers there at Toei have 45 to 50 episodes to tell a nice, concise story. And sometimes, if you do it right and you know your beats, you get a really consistent story like, say, Build or Double. Or sometimes you get a really mildly annoying to, oh god, make it stop pacing, like in, say, Ghost. Or like some people feel here, the contest arc, where it's just like, why are you doing this for so long? Do you know where you're going? Hayden here, I was so mad in Heisei Generations Forever when we only saw Ryotaro being possessed by Urataros. Now, one, I was very happy to see Takeru Sato back. He's one of those actors that got amazingly huge after the show ended and is in a bunch of movies, dramas, things like that. The fact that he came back at all, one, and two, the fact that he came back to play any of those characters again in my lifetime is amazing to see. And the fact that they kept it under wraps, that's the other really big thing. Number 3, they kept that under wraps. They didn't tell anybody And the thing is, in this fandom, we're so used to having magazine scans and spoilers being thrown at us so quickly that usually we know everything before a show airs or a movie comes out. So the fact that they kept this under wraps so long until the movie came out, and it was this great surprise for people. I've heard stories about people who went to go see the movie there in Japan in theaters, and usually Japanese audiences are very reserved, very quiet, very silent. But when he actually came out on screen, people audibly gasped like, oh, he's back! Takeru Sato, he's there! Like, it was a major thing. It was kind of the same way people felt when they saw the first trailer for Heisei Generation's final, and they saw that Shu Watanabe, Ryosuke Miura, Sota Fukushi all came back. Gaku Sano came back. Seeing all those guys reprising their characters is amazing to see. What I really wish it could be for any other team-up movie is that we had the kind of luck over with Kamen Rider that we do with Ultraman, and you can get several years in a row of writers just come back. There's no scheduling difficulties. Everybody's back. Everybody's happy to do it. We're going to be there. We're going to all transform at once, and it would be amazing. The closest we get, though, is something like Heisei Generations Forever, where I at least get to see everybody on their bikes, like I'd been wishing for the last 15 years, and see everybody do a rider kick. Maybe not in unison, but at least they did it one after another, and that was still amazing to see. Zbot here, do you think all of Metsubo Jinrai will eventually turn face? I think at a certain point they could go either way with it in the finale, and I don't think they're all going to turn face. I think it's going to be a split. I think Ikazuchi and Horobi will stay true to Metsubo Jinrai. I think even though Ikazuchi is having these difficulties rationalizing what he's doing, I think eventually being a part of Metsubo Jinrai is going to win out. And I think specifically Naki and Jin are going to turn face. That's what I think is going to happen. He's still doing Rurouni Kenshin movies, specifically talking about Takeru Sato. How he was able to do that movie in secret is crazy. He does have 2 more Rurouni Kenshin movies coming out. They were going to come out earlier this year. Now they've been delayed to next year. Very looking forward to that. Because he's fighting another Kamen Rider in that. The guy who played Kamen Rider Dark Drive is going to be playing the villain in the next Kenshin movies. So very interesting to see that. Anonymous here. Metsubo Jinrai getting killed one by one before 1v1 with Aruto and Arc would be disappointing. I very much hope they don't do that. I don't want any of them to job out like they totally got wailed on, no contest beaten by Arc. Arc 0, Arc 1, either one. I don't want to see that. These characters have been so interesting to see. I think that would be just a little bit insulting to see that happen. To see that all these good suits, all that good character development go to waste that way. Hayden here. I like that they've been better about keeping Rider secret, like with both Naki and Tsukuyomi. Tsukuyomi, I wonder if that wasn't more of a last-minute decision. Because when the show starts, really what it is, it's kind of by committee how we get a lot of these things. Like, Bandai comes up with the toy concept, and then they give it to Toei, and then they give that to a writer to be like, okay, this is what we've got, work something around that. And then the writer has to interpret that into whatever they're going to do. Now, specifically with Tsukuyomi, all the way at the beginning of the series, we knew that they had put Tsukuyomi noises in the Geo driver, or Jiku driver, I'm sorry. And initially it was being treated as a joke because we had the little net movie there showing that's how they were going to do it. And I think I appreciated that, kind of as Megadong's saying here, that they nutted up to go ahead and decide, no, you know what, we'll make the suit, we can do that. I just wish they hadn't done it so late. Let's see. Christopher, how do you think Aruto's character is being handled right now? Any issues in particular you have with him? Specifically with Aruto, I think really within the past several years, he's one of the most capable actors I've seen in the leading role from the jump. And the reason I say that is with a lot of characters, a lot of actors who come into Kamen Rider, for a lot of them, this is their big break. This is their first show, their first drama that they're doing, and depending on how well they do, they go off and do amazing things, kind of like all of the other actors I've spoken of before. With Aruto specifically, I think he started great, he started strong. I was initially worried, like I have been with so many other writers, that I wasn't going to be cool with the voice sounding because it was kind of a little grating, but I've gotten used to it. Now, as far as how he's being treated right now in the series, I think he's being a little bit more reserved than I'd like, and I don't know whether or not that's them trying to show he's being more mature or they don't know how to write him exactly. Now, he's got the most writing on everything because, yes, of course, he's the protagonist, he's the main character. I think we need to see him get a little more confident with being a CEO, with being a Kamen Rider, and really going at it full force, being, I guess, a little bit more hot and fiery, taking that comedic energy and turning it towards defeating the villains here. Let's see here. I personally think Aruto is the same character as in the beginning of the series. Aruto's emote skills are amazing, though. No, Aruto's actor is amazing at facial reactions, getting all those different facial reactions in there. That's not easy to do. Not everybody can do that. Some people have very static faces, and he has a very emotive face. So it's good that they're able to bring that in. That actor was able to bring that to the table, to the character, and then we get to enjoy that here in 01. So we're going to probably wrap up pretty soon, probably within the next 5 minutes. So if you guys have any other questions, go ahead and get them in now before we wrap it up. See, Hayden, you got a comment here. Still, a suit as badass as 01 with Aruto's voice coming out of it throws me off. I know how that feels. That very much happens a lot of years where I'm not sure that I like the voice coming out of it from the character, but I know that's from the standpoint of a character being very young, and so they have to sound more chipper, kind of more like they came out of a shonen anime. The thing of it is, if you sell the character, you don't have to worry about that. It doesn't matter how they sound, that will become endearing to you. And I think to a lot of people, Aruto has become very endearing to how he just comes off as a character. The fact that, one, that he's not a teenager, I appreciate that. He's in his 20s. But two, the fact that we're seeing him having to deal with all of these things, and so far he's remained resolute. Now, there's a difference between being resolute in your character and then not having any character development, because he is having character development in the fact that we saw him beginning to doubt his stance on the human gears over these last couple of episodes, and the fact that he even has any doubts is something of a growth for him. And I appreciate that, seeing that he had that example to point to of somebody telling him, aren't you the guy that believes in this, and kind of turning back to, you know what, you're right, I doubted myself for a second, but I'm not going to trip. That's who I am. I'm this guy. I stand up for human gear rights. I'm going to do this. Thank you for reminding me. Really, it's that kind of character building that people know you so well that they're able to call you out on when you're not acting like yourself. That's good writing, I think. Something that you want to see. Something you want to see for yourself with any people you keep around you, quite honestly. Let's see. Anonymous, how do we promote Dogenger's harder? Okay, I won't get into that because, one, I haven't finished watching Dogenger, and that's really it. I can't really talk about that specifically when I'm talking about 01, but I do plan on watching the rest of that and getting into that because I know a lot of people think it's really, really funny and really enjoyable to watch, so I'm definitely going to do that. So I think I've said just about as much as I can in regard to Guy. We're going to see what happens later on today and whether or not he's worth redeeming. But I want to thank you guys for coming out. Again, look below. You can follow me on social media. Talk to me during the week. I'll let you guys know next time when I'm going to be talking and what I'm going to be talking about. You can always follow me at JoshKnightFirst over on Twitter, and here, JoshKnightTheFirst over on YouTube. Thank you guys for watching, and remember, very much in relation to this, your favorite character can change, so can you. I'll see you guys next time.